6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, welcome back to the NXT Round Up, episode 36. It is me, the dad bod god himself, the bald and the beard and the freaking beautiful Piers Austin. Once again, I'm joined by the silver tongue legend himself, the voice of PWA, Mr. Christopher Gale. Mr. Gale, welcome back to the NXT Round Up. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you, Piers, and thank you for allowing me to have a slightly delayed start. By the way, that robotic countdown, I feel like I'm at an Armin van Buuren concert or something. I can happily report that my basketball team had a win tonight, and in addition, the Sydney Kings secured the Australian National Basketball League title 3-0 with a win out of Kudos Arena over Tasmania. So it's all been good, and I'm here and ready to go.
That's it. Big round of applause for Kris Gale and the Sydney Kings for getting the W.
Separate
so
games. My game was their game.
You don't play for the Kings, bro?
No, I played against some Kings. That's the best I can tell you.
Well, that's it. But you know what? Let's cover off our sponsors real quick. First up is healthsleeves.com. That's SLEEFS Sleeves. If you're an athlete or someone you know is an athlete, you want to check out Sleeves. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, compression socks, headbands, mouth guards, boots, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you always hear me raving about, guys. So go and check out sleeves.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD and get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, guys, make sure you check out healthvape.com. Healthvape.com is your healthy vaping alternative. If you're one of those filthy friggin' cigarette smokers, chuck away the darts and get yourself a health vape. All their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals. They help restore the energy while giving you that vital boost, and they are vitamin infused. So check them out. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. We got Mr. Michael Matos tuning in all the way from New York. What is happening, Mr. Matos? Thank you for tuning in.
Hey, Michael.
Chris, NXT, and I mentioned before we went live, I wanted to mention something, about the releases that we saw. One of which, someone that you and I know, reasonably well, Ms. Steph DeLander, who was Persia Pirotta in NXT, had been in NXT for probably, let's say, 6 months.
Slightly longer. I think it might have been about 8 months since she first appeared.
So, yeah, say 6 to 8 months. To be honest, I'm quite shocked at that. I think that they didn't really give her an opportunity to succeed. They had her in an angle which was entertaining. I mean, she made it work, but to be all honest with you, I was like, really? You couldn't see money in Steph DeLander, Persia Pirotta? Really?
Yeah, look, obviously a little bit of prejudice comes in here in terms of the fact that Persia Pirotta has wrestled in the company I'm involved with here in Australia, PWA, and she's the Python powerhouse. She was the baddest bitch in PWA, and it was really exciting for her to get over. Well known that she had a close personal friendship with Indy Hartwell, and I think it was a shared dream for them and to form a tag team and perform. The angle that you referred to was the usual angle. It's like what happens to you and me, Pierce. Women get in our lives, and friendships are rent asunder, and all this sort of thing. And it certainly was taking away from wrestling. I thought every post that she had an opportunity to be a winner on in terms of her wrestling performances on NXT. She made them. And I can't pretend I'm not close enough to understand the ins and outs of business and roster management and all those sorts of things. And you would just go there. So matrix of factors, her ability as a performer and as a wrestler were not the reasons why she was let go, as far as I could see. And it's obviously doubly disappointing. You hate to lose someone that you really enjoy, and you really doubly hate it when it's someone you know who's really been flying the flag so proudly for all the professional wrestlers here in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I was completely shocked at it. Yeah, they released quite a few people. Malcolm Bivens was another one, which I
You
thought
love that guy. I mean, Diamond Line. They've now got Broderick Strong trying to be the leader. I mean, it's a pale echo, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, like, I see like Malcolm Bivens as that guy who could have been like this generation's Paul Heyman, this generation's Bobby the Brain Heenan. He's very quick-witted, very sharp with his tongue, and you know what? He was an asset in that role. You know what I mean? Like, to get young guys like the Creed brothers over, you know, putting him on, you know, a thing, but having him being the mouthpiece for him, even Ivy Nile being the mouthpiece for her for the first, you know, X amount of months that she was there. I think that it was really good how they delivered it with him. Dakota Kai, I've said before, I was never really overly taken by her. I didn't think anything bad of her. I just was like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't do anything to really, for me as a fan watching, go, oh, wow, like Dakota Kai's wrestling. I never felt that with watching her. But still.
Dexter. What about Dexter?
Dude, another one. Like, this guy is such a good performer. Like, if you haven't seen his stuff that he did in TNA, which is basically the starting point for the Dexter Loomis character that he did, where he was like a stalker to Christy Hemme, who was like the backstage interviewer, ring announcer in TNA, and then he's like, you know what I mean? Like, and like, obviously in WWE, they can't have that level of psychotic perverseness happening, but this is back in TNA, and it was absolutely amazing to watch. And I think he's a great worker, great performer. But overall, I think WWE needs to have a look, like, when they're recruiting some international talent, these people uproot their lives, essentially, move to a foreign country, establish themselves, and then get, you know what I mean, there for 6-8 months, and then, like, you know what I mean, like, not even giving a fair opportunity. If you look at any other business in the world and you go into a job and then in 6-7 months, like in any job, you haven't proven your worth. You haven't proven if you should be staying, but definitely unless you've done something ridiculously wrong, you don't get fired for that, for, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing a decent job, you don't get fired for that unless you fuck up.
But there's no doubt that NXT is an extremely crowded platform when we talk about today's show. I mean, there was so much content going on, and maybe not as much wrestling as one would have hoped. But, you know, the thing you mentioned, though, I was talking about basketball earlier. I mean, you can be called up for the NBA for a 10-day contract, you know, and then sent back to the G League or wherever. I mean, it is the nature of the beast. And I think if you ask the professional wrestlers, would they go through it all again? Like, would Stephanie Lander go through that experience again? I mean, it's on the CV now. It is she always described it as a dream come true, and she's had that experience. Has it played out how exactly she wanted? No, but it's a really tough competitive business with a really crowded platform there. So these things are going to happen, and that possibly begs the question a little bit about, at times NXT just seems to be going through the wheel so quickly about, you know, the regions from which the wrestlers comes, the stories they're trying to do, and it gets very, very dense. I mean, I wonder if your boy Bivens would have allowed the Ivy Nile challenge to go on, though. I am now educated as to what it is a Bulgarian backpackers or something like that.
That was terrible.
Yeah, Bulgarian bag. Sorry, it's something that's like customs officials are looking for. Just need to have a look
exactly.
at any Bulgarian bags.
Bulgarian bags, yeah. But this week with NXT opens up Toxic Attraction taking on Roxanne Perez and Wendy Chu.
Yep.
So, to be honest, he'll move by the baby faces to start the match. You know what I mean? Wendy Chu jumps, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is where WWE's booking sometimes just makes me like question what the fuck. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you've got your heels come out, do this amazing entrance, and then the baby face does a heel move and attacks the heel from behind.
Got to keep on your toes, Piers. And look, it's interesting because we talked about on the episodes that I've been on, Wendy Chu's performed quite a bit, and I've said I haven't really bought the Dreamtime gimmick particularly, but one thing I am starting to notice is that she's quite a ferocious performer, and there's almost like the clothing and the attitude is actually a bit of a swerve as to how she actually is. And if my biggest takeaway from this particular match, yes, it commenced in an unusual way as you suggested, was the aggression that she showed. I thought she was the standout performer of the four of them. And I'm really starting to get on the choo-choo bandwagon, if I can say that, or that would be the choo-choo train, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. I don't know. The idea that it's clearly delineated who's able to enter legally, illegally, I just always find it such a movable feast that, I kind of like the start. It caught me off guard as it did Toxic Attraction.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just think he'll sort of think, you know what I mean? Like, and we've seen it happen before with NXT. Like, I think Cora Jade did it the other week where she's like in the ring, she's got the skateboard, she's like, fuck, what do I do? And then she hits Natty with a skateboard. I just think like it's I don't know if it's not being set up properly as far as like from a producer in the back just going, hey, what the fuck are you guys planning? And the wrestlers just thinking, oh yeah, this will be a cool way to start the match, and no one actually overseeing going, no, that's not how you can't do that. Which in WWE I can't see that you know what I mean? Like, okay. I can't see people not letting that happen, but it doesn't make sense.
You know what one of my highlights of this match was the discussion between Joseph and Barrett about whether Toys R Us was still a viable proposition. And I'm sure Barrett's right. The Toys R Us has gone into bankruptcy. And yeah, I just have this sort of vision of Vic Joseph, who used to go to Toys R Us and buy all the action figures and so forth. And then he said, I got to grow up and I'm kind of growing out of it. But he's lost. He was probably quite distressed to hear that in case he ever wanted to, he can't go back and get something. And I thought Gigi Dolan had a beautiful touch at the end when they sort of assaulted Wendy after Toxic Attraction got the win. She actually took one of her false eyelashes off. Did you notice that? And she just
I didn't.
And she blew it away. It was just a little salt in the wound, like we're really railing on you. And Mandy Rose was saying you don't belong here, etc., etc. And I'm sure it was spontaneous. Just one of her eyelashes came loose and she blew it like a little feather away. I thought it was very nice.
No, I didn't see that. I got to go back and see that. But look, I thought it was an okay match. I think Roxanne Perez is probably one that they're going to be very high on in the future. Yeah. I think honestly with her, they're just seeing dollar signs. She's 20 years of age. There's a lot of years left in that mileage, and I think that as an in-ring performer, she's great. I really enjoy her work. I enjoyed her stuff at in Ring of Honor. Do you guys still have any Toys R Us left over there?
No,
I think we do. Do we?
I think it's all gone.
Is it?
I think it's all gone. And for me, I equally, and like I'm not confining myself to my childhood. I have an array of action figures that used to use my daughter as a premise to go to Toys R Us, and covering all sorts of cult pop figures and movies and anime characters and whatever. And it kind of stopped when Toys R Us go, because it sort of kind of devolved to the specialty comic stores, and they really gouge you those places. Let me tell you.
Oh, they know how to sort of get a dollar out of you, don't they?
I saw an ad for a comic book store in Australia, and they had a copy of a retro comic which was called Tales, Tals, of the Super Pets, and it had the cover Superman and Supergirl with Crypto and Streaky the cat in a tug of war as to who the Super Pet champion is. Now, obviously, it's a classic, but they're also charging 36 Australian dollars for the privilege to buy it. So I don't know who won out of Streaky and Crypto. I have my money on Streaky, but I guess I'll find out some other time.
I love the names. But we saw a Grayson Waller and Tiffany Stratton shopping spree.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Do you sense that there's a burgeoning friendship, at least, between these two individuals?
I just hope we're not going to see another romance angle. Like, I just think it's been fucking done to death.
I certainly hope not. I don't mind them. I mean, I think I've gone on this show and said, look, I haven't been completely down with Tiffany Stratton's gimmick, and it's, of course, well documented that I'm just agreeing with everything the whole bar is saying. I hear you.
Yeah, that's Low Rider in the house.
Yeah, hey, Laura, how you doing? I like that. I'm happy for them to team up and wear pink motif. I think Waller looks great. He is my boy. That's a matter of public record. But yeah, I don't want to see them in a romance. I really don't. But let me tell you, the expression "a teachable moment" is driving lots of narrative right now in NXT. There's no doubt about it, and I quite like it.
You know what? Like, if we did see a romance angle, I think the big payoff would be to get Waller over more as a heel, like him just breaking up where they're going, nah, baby, win. You know what I mean? Like, I could see that. And then just to him, like, just, you know what I mean? Because if he starts getting over with the females, then it's like they can do a spot like that. And then he just, like, drops her like a sack of potatoes.
Can you be more hated? Well, yes, you can.
Yeah, exactly. Then we see Diamond Mine, having a bit of a conversation backstage in their little gym. They're talking. It looks like there's going to be a bit of a dissension. I reckon Diamond Mine is probably on its way out of being splitting up. It definitely looks like that's on the cards. It is. They introduced.
Everyone's against mining these days,
but they introduced a new member, and it's funny that the guy who they introduced is the brother of Gable Stevenson, who is the Olympic wrestler that WWE signed. But they signed his brother as well a year beforehand, and he's been training in NXT.
Right. So this is interesting to me because I certainly saw Stevenson was at the Tokyo Olympics, correct?
I believe yes. I
think that's right. So obviously a recruitment stream for professional wrestlers are people out of the collegiate system in the United States, amateur wrestling. There are storied people like your Kurt Angles and your Iron Sheiks who are actually very successful amateur wrestlers. Be it Greco-Roman or freestyle, do you want me to explain the difference to you? I can't. But isn't there a bit of a debate on at the moment that the WWF's perspective is that they are more teachable moment, like those sorts of younger people coming out of the system rather than people who apply their trade on the indie system? And there's a sort of a feeling that it's an easier route to get picked up if you're sort of raw material now. Is that part of the discussion?
That's what they've basically started saying, that they're not going to be going from the indie route, but they're going to be going from like the collegiate route. And look, there's a number of reasons. They say that people don't come in with bad habits. That could be true. But I also think that if they're not going to recruit someone, like, let's just pick a random name out there, like a Luke Hawks, for example, is because someone like a Luke Hawks would go in there and not take any bullshit and go, no, I'm not doing fucking that. Like, are you serious? So it's people that obviously who might see the product, but not really get the product straight away until they're deep in it, till they're performing, until they're experiencing the political side of shit as well, but also the bad creative. Because you got to think, like, they get someone from a collegiate basketball background, they go in, they become a star there in WWE, go up through the system. They don't know what bad creative is. They only know what they're being taught in NXT about the professional wrestling business. So I think it's like, obviously, bad habits that people may bring in from the indies. But I think a big part of it is, hey, we got these people where it's like, this is a job to them. They'll come in here. They'll never be bigger than whatever. They'll be happy with the spot they get. As long as they get paid, they're not going to be wanting to blah, blah, blah. Like, they'll just do what they're told. We get rid of them. They're probably not going to go to AEW because, like, they work for WWE, the biggest company. They're a basketball star. They'll go on and be social media people or whatever. And they probably don't see him as being a threat once they're released either. So there could be a number of reasons, I think.
Right. But then the concern is that you end up potentially with a more homogenous product. And it's all about control and all that sort of deal. I think I would have thought part of the ingredients of a successful overall show and company would be people who've absolutely experienced and delivered bad creative. Like, you'd hate to. I think you should be open to all the channels and to sort of start going. If we're selecting a particular channel because we're trying to return to making robots, that's a concern, because I think that's the beauty of this business. Is in our Australian political scene, we're up facing a federal election at the moment, and one of the current Prime Minister said about his opponent that he's a loose unit, and everyone's really happy to see the expression "loose unit" finally enter Australian politics. But I think the business is kind of characterized by a few loose units, and there are parameters and restrictions and certain lengths you can go, but to sort of, you hate to go like it's cookie cutter.
Yeah, I mean, look. Yeah, I think Lowrider says it here. They're trying to return to making, they are trying to return to making robots, which, from what I've heard from certain people that I know, is like the backstage of it is they don't want anyone to be like the next John Cena, the next Steve Austin, the next Rock. They want to be able to control that thing where it's like people come for the brand, not the performer. And I think by doing that is like they can have like NXT churning out professional wrestlers. People get up to the main roster. Oh, you don't like something? That's okay, because we got 100 more people down at the performance center that we're just churning out, so you can be replaced next week.
Right, and this is the argument that when the sport of cricket in Australia weren't turned professional, and the administration said there are 40,000 people who would play for nothing, and that tension. I don't look forward to a year where the WWE Hall of Fame inducts NXT 2.0 as a brand. like it's a people business, baby. Come on.
I agree, but that's where we're at. But I digress. I feel like we've just we've gone on a lot of topics.
It's only 6 matches, so we can catch up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get there.
And it was kind of Ladies' Day, really, wasn't it?
Future show. JT, the terrible wrestlers.
I hate to see JT, the Future Shock, describe himself as a terrible wrestler, because he's talking himself up. I mean, he's nowhere near as good as a terrible wrestler. Come on now.
Oh, Jesus. You're terrible, mate.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, don't we all? But, dude, next we saw a Joe Gacy promo.
Yep.
Which is kind of an interesting promo, because I kind of felt like he was going back to how the origination of the gimmick started, with how he's talking about inclusivity and starting to bring that in, where I felt like it was going a little bit more darker, you know what I mean? And now he's got a couple of minions and stuff like that.
I wrote down, and I guess we're all trying to guess who those goons might be, because he made reference to them, didn't he? I found a couple of people now that Harlan has gone. And I was actually doing a bit of research off the back of that, because on the other side, his entrance music had a real sort of like Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell, Swamp feel. And I said, who is that? And I found out it's this band that does a number of WWE entrances now called Def Rebel. You across this?
I've heard of the band name, yeah.
Right.
I think they do Miz's track. I might be.
Yeah, right. So it's actually a music production house in New York with the acronym DTP, who've replaced the previous source of music. Again, it's another indicator sort of going, well, we don't want to pay huge royalties, so we'll do our in-house music. I have to say Gacy's is pretty effective, because it absolutely conjures up the Bayou and Swamp Rock and whatever. But interesting to hear a couple of punters apparently turn their backs on him, which I thought was a nice touch from some of the people in the crowd, so they wouldn't even look at him. But, he was seen to be inviting, and of course it's coming off the back of the kidnapping of the previous episode of Bron Breakker and the banning, and they seem to be talking about, it's lonely being the champion, and I have a way, and inclusivity, and you can come into our circle and join something. And I might be involved in PWA, and I might be thinking about a guy called Unsocial Jordan speaking out to our lonely champion Ricky South. So it felt like a familiar tale. It did,
didn't it? It did, didn't it? It's, you know what? It's interesting, with this character that they're going. In this day and age, I wouldn't think that they would really sort of go deep into like the whole like making fun of cancel culture with him like they have. but I'm starting to get the feel with him they're going almost like borderline Bray Wyatt type with him,
Sure.
which I hope they stay away from, just because he's of a similar body shape to what Wyatt was. And look, I think he's definitely a performer that could pull it off. I just don't think we need a 2022 Undertaker or Bray Wyatt 2.0. I think Gacy's a great performer in ring and character as well. I honestly think that the two guys that he's going to unveil as his guys will probably be grizzled young vets.
Right.
Because I think, what are they doing with them right now? You know what I mean? Like, they're not really doing much with them. And I was like, kind of looking at the guys, how they're built, and I'm like, oh, it's like, it could have been grizzled young. You know what I mean? Like, that's the first name that came to mind where I thought, you know what, that could be kind of cool. Like having like a British twang into sight in that Joe Gacy sort of stable. I think that'd be a pretty cool aspect for
it. One day they will eventually morph into the grizzled old veterans, and that'll be quite a moment.
And then they'll go back in their 70s going, remember when we did the grizzled young vet spot? Let's do that. Let's do that tonight. Then we saw Andre Chase and Saray segment, which I thought was pretty hilarious, actually. With Bodhi standing in the background and translating Japanese. He's like, wait, you speak Japanese? Like, yeah, but we have an international language like thing in the school. Awesome.
I thought that was pretty good, and they made reference to that later on in the show as well. And Bodhi's got a bit of a comic turn about him, haven't you? He sort of got I guess they sort of call it the dumb jock, but it's a sort of a riff on was it Legally Blonde, the movie with gosh, I'm just
Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah, Reese Witherspoon, and she turned out to be not what she appeared, and maybe that's what they're doing with Buddy. But that was fun. And Saraya's we'll talk about when the mixed tag match happens, but she's a little pocket dynamo, and I mean, she's yelling and screaming and really attacking her moves with a lot of vim and vigor. So I was enjoying all that concept being.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the segment itself was really good. Andre Chase, I think, is really a guy who's really getting over as far as like the comedy aspect of it. His performance, but I just wonder how long this sort of how this gimmick could really go on for. You know what I mean? Like, okay, he's a professor, he's got all of his students there, and they've got the Chase University section. But can this character be something of a longevity to it? I mean, probably the professor we can, but we'd probably see like variations of the university. I don't know.
Chase will get expelled for academic misconduct. You heard it here first. I just feel sympathetic for everyone who's got to perform against him. It must be terrible wrestling a guy in a sweater. I mean, that will get all sticky and.
But after that, we saw the first match of the women's breakout tournament: Fallon Henley versus Sloane Jacobs. I'll let you take.
Well, I was going to say, I don't want to be a narc, but like that was 40 minutes into the show. It's only our second match, so. That's a long wait to get a second match. If we're talking more generally about the women's breakout tournament, which I think was an effective device used for the men about 8 months ago, I think they were saying, and Carmelo Hayes got the win there, not Carmelo Anthony, as I called him once. I like the idea, the stakes are for a championship of your choosing, but that comment, I mean, it's a real statement about youth. So there are a lot of young performers in that, and many of them sort of seeping into the memory as standouts. That would be my concern. So, I didn't think there was much to this match. I thought Fallon Henley was pretty much a lock. Brooks and Jensen showed up, and there was some heartwarming sportsmanship, or as a sports personship these days at the end, but. I've got my reservations around a lot of the talent that seems to be pushed through that tournament, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at the tournament, I think it's great that the women are getting the equal spotlight as the men with different tournaments, rumbles, etc. Yeah, sure. Equal to the guys. I think that this tournament matchup that they had with Fallon Henley and Sloane Jacobs, personally, I felt they just buried Jacobs the entire time on commentary. Because, like, how many times are you going to call her the fucking underdog? Like, okay, we get it. Like, she's doing the favor tonight. But how can you say that she's the underdog when Fallon Henley hasn't wrestled a single match on NXT? You know what I mean? Or hasn't wrestled a singles match, I should say. So, you know, I feel like, you know, that was kind of like a burial of not buried, like an intentional burial, but I kind of feel like that buried her a little bit.
Well, it's just a slightly manufactured feel about it. And obviously with Nikita Lyons' match, the commentators repeatedly refer to the fact, I'm not really sure why she's even in a breakout tournament. Hasn't she just absolutely stamped her authority over this platform in the last couple of months? And that was my initial reaction. I sort of go, well, you've got to get Lyons in there to make up 8. Like you might be stretching it a little bit. And I think there was a bit of almost ironic commentary sort of acknowledging that, you know, what are we exactly seeing here, which is definitely not to belie. As you know, I'm an enormous fan of pushing women's wrestling, and if you can match the formats, but you got to make sure you've got enough quality in there. You know, that's, you know, one of the things that in PWA we're so desperate to do is continue to grow our female roster. Right.
Yeah. You're definitely seeing that. Like, here in Australia, we have the best female talent in the world. And I've said that. I've gone on record and said that time and time again. But, you know, I feel like this match, to be honest, it was so. Like, I didn't really, I wasn't really that invested into it. You know, again, this is NXT where people are there to learn how to work and learn how to wrestle. You can't shit on someone's performance in NXT. I feel like, unless they're like a Dolph Ziggler or a Natty Neidhart who came in there and completely shit the bed. But this is NXT where they're there to learn and stuff. So I don't think it was anything on them. I think they're just, from a storytelling aspect of it, slow down a little bit. I feel like a lot of the times in this match they were just rushing, and it was like certain things just seemed a bit off. But, you know, overall there wasn't anything that was like atrocious about it. It was just, it was an okay match. It was just it didn't grab my attention.
Well, I just feel this was a show in particular where there wasn't enough meat in a number of the matches to let them tell stories. So you surrounded it with other things.
Yeah.
You know, like the Ivy Nile challenge. And you know, you actually, what was the format of the challenge? Like, she's going to keep going until there's no one left. Like, so who won? Like, she won her own challenge, you know? So that match to me was an example of, it almost felt like a pause in all the promos and the outside storytelling. And you don't want that. I think you've got to go, our centerpiece, our spine of the show has to be the matches. And I just kind of feel that then maybe just a bit of a lack of depth in the women's tournament was a bit exposed on this occasion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that. After that, we see Legato del Phantasma. You know, basically it's Santos Escobar building with his feud with Tony D'Angelo. Sends Cruz, which is the former Raul Mendoza, to go and get the car. Tony D and his boys jump Cruz. They chuck him in a boot. They drive off with him. They do a kidnapping. How many kidnappings do we see on NXT?
I wrote in capitals at the start of my notes because the show opened reprising a kidnapping. We got another kidnapping. They must have very lax kidnapping laws in Florida. That's all I can say. It may not be a criminal offense there. It might just be, a standard form of entertainment, of a Thursday night or something. But
or just a prank, like, on, shh, quick, fucking get him, chuck him in the boot. Yeah, we'll put the cuffs on him. Let's go. Hit him with a bat.
And then back and forth between subsequently between Mendoza and Tony Soprano, as I keep writing down, and AJ Galante got mentioned, and they started talking about the Consigliere, and I was getting a little bit confused. But all I'm saying is always have just like when you're diving, have a buddy system when you're going to a car park in Florida, because there's a good chance you'll get nabbed.
Oh, it's just ridiculous at this stage, mate. I gotta say, but look, I find this whole this kind of reminds me of Los Boricuas versus Skull and Eight Ball and the Nation of Domination. This reminds me of the Gangland Wars of Monday Night Raw of 1998, but just done in 2022. Look, I think that,
before not Mendoza. Sorry about that.
sorry, that's all right. I think that these characters, they're definitely chipping in on what's popular on mainstream television, and trying to capitalize on that. You know what I mean? Like you've seen the Mayan TV show, so you know what I mean. Like Pablo Escobar and stuff like that. So this is like a similar thing that they can have, and then they've got the Italian mafia guy with Tony D'Angelo. So I think it's using that bit of drama and adding it into the product. I think Legato, I've been saying for a long time, I think that they're ready for the main roster, to be honest. And I think that they've got to do something with Santos Escobar. Like I think he is probably the standout performer on NXT, to be honest. Like that's just my opinion. Tony D, like I said, that whole spot there with his two young guys, I'm just like, all right, cool. But anyway, next up, we see a video promo for Alba Fire, who is formerly Kaylee Ray.
Right. So, do we have a line of thinking as to the name change?
Well, WWE had basically turned around and said they were going to change everybody's names. They don't want anybody to have a name which is close to their shoot name. They didn't want to have anybody use a name that they'd used previously in professional wrestling.
Right.
So there could be no aspect of your shoot name or a previous ring name that you have had. They changed Raquel Gonzalez's name to Raquel Rodriguez. Who else did they change? They changed Walter, obviously, to Gunter.
Thrilled about that. I love that.
Yeah. Obviously, they're not going to change people like Randy Orton or John Cena or you know what I mean, like Mickey James or.
Well, it's an interesting theme, isn't it? I mean, across the recruitment sources, the design of the entrance music, and now the naming, it all seems like a big intellectual property play to me. And again, like you need to be careful. Like in Australia, New Zealand, we had a competition for a particular, very small, not well followed sport called rugby union. And when they sort of went into this sort of more international tournament, they started naming the franchises just after their mascots. So they were like the Stormers or the Sharks. And they would disassociate them from the geography, like from where they originally came from. And the argument was, it's sort of like marketing geniuses, which is, oh, well, if we call them the Natal Sharks, then only people from Natal will follow them, right? And
exactly.
And I'm going, hang on, the biggest sports franchises in the world are Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, the Los Angeles Lakers, the New York Nets, the New York Knicks, whatever. And I think when you build a character and then say, well, we've got this idea that we don't want it connected to the shoot name, we don't want it being used in any other jurisdiction, you are challenging fans there a little bit, I think.
I think so too.
Yeah, because it can be confusing. And I was sort of going, hang on, don't I recognize her? And there's a baseball bat. And I'm just going, where is this coming from? And it didn't affect what I thought was a pretty good match. I mean, I loved a Glaswegian kiss, as Barrett described it, into the firebomb, into that flip. And that flip was pretty off the top rope. And she sort of just got a net round. It sort of got me a little bit on the edge of my seat, I'll be honest. But they certainly...
Yeah, the senton.
Yeah, the senton. Yeah, it was a small margin for error, is what it looked like to me.
Very,
but Amari Miller, it's obviously suffered an injury supposedly there, and she certainly... I thought it was a good match. I enjoyed it.
So do I. I actually have said Amari Miller is one of the most underrated females on the roster.
Right.
Like by far, because like anytime you see her in a match, I should say, she sells her ass off. You know what I mean? Like she gets in
And help me,
there.
did she have a different name before, or has it been Amari Miller all
No,
the
no,
way?
it's always been Amari Miller. But you know what I mean? Like she's just, I think she's a great performer. I think what she does in there, she makes her opponent look like $1 million, gets her opponents over. I want to see her do more, to be honest, besides putting people over. But I definitely think that, she's definitely got some talent there. I think the
This
match
is when
was
you call
great.
someone
Alba,
fire, by the way, and then you just all the
sorry?
graphics of fire and flames. Like
Yeah.
it's sort of very obvious. I've heard the expression "Captain Obvious" a bit lately. Like it's just like I don't know. We
Alba fire.
don't continuously underestimate your audience, is what I would say.
You know what? To be honest, I almost see when Kaylee Ray was walking out, like when she's like staring straight at the camera, it's like, fuck, I hate this name. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just seemed to me like she was not really buying into the moment, if that makes sense. Like when she was walking to the ring, I don't know, like that might just be her gimmick of being like, I don't give a fuck, or I'm trying to be intense. But I took it as like she just looked like detached when she was coming out to the ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which it could have been just one. It could just be one of those deer in headlight moments, which I'm sure everyone gets at some stage, you know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
But next, what do we got?
Well, you had little shutout. Solo Sikoa shut Hayes and Williams outside.
Yeah.
Their ring spot, and then you had the little promo with Mackenzie talking to Cora Jade.
Yeah, I saw that. It's kind of like her. I'm gonna go up against Natalia and beat her, and
and we got a longer promo later. But I noticed her tattoo says "Starve the ego, feed the soul," and I worked out that I do exactly the opposite in my life. And then Mackenzie, the interviewer, threw back to, and she goes back to Vic Wade, and I kind of like that concept that the two commentators are, like Benefer or something like that. That it's just a perfect
Vic Wade.
Yeah. So with my compadre Rose, we're just Rosegale, something like that.
Rosegale Rose.
Yeah, it just saves a lot of time and a lot of syllables. I kind of like it. We're just going to throw back to Vic Wade.
Vic Wade. I like it. That's pretty cool. Solo Sikoa coming out and cutting his promo, locking out and taking the time of Camelo and Trick. I felt like his promo kind of went on for a little bit. He even got the big Uso chant there, which I think now he's kind of like they're acknowledging it.
Yeah. Does he like that, or does it irritate him a bit?
I don't know. I don't know if he looked irritated or he was approving of it, but it looked like he was approving of it.
Yeah, I think he's popular. Like I think I get a sense that crowd really liked the fact that Grimes has given him the offer, and you got next chant and whatever. So I think there's a recognition that he's really getting over with the audience, which is good for him, I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I just felt like the promo went on for a little bit before Cameron Grimes came out.
We only had 6 matches, Piers. We had plenty of time on our hands.
I know. But, Cameron Grimes saying, "Hey, you're next in line, champ. You're going to get a shot at the belt." Then Camelo and Trick jump Cameron Grimes. Solo makes the save. And then there's a bit of a weird, back and forth. I don't know, what would you call it? Like Cameron Grimes goes over and snatches the belt off him. And then kind of looks at him like, "My precious."
Yeah, it's that usual thing of they're building up that match as that these two guys genuinely respect each other. So it's going to be I think a match that's fought in a good spirit. But at the bottom line, you don't want to give the belt to anyone. There was a great scene in the Larry Sanders show. Was that fictitious show about the machinations of a late night show starring Gary Shandling, and they're at the Emmys or something, and Shandling's nominated, but Letterman wins, right? And they're backstage, and Letterman goes to Larry Sanders, goes, Larry, I really respect you. I want you to have this. And he hands him the Emmy. And Larry goes, Dave, that's so nice of you. He goes, you're kidding, right? You don't think I'm actually going to give it to you?
I remember that show. I fucking loved it back in the day.
It's a great show. And that's that kind of thing, I think, of like, I respect you. You're my next challenger. We're going to get in the ring and get it on. But hey, give me my belt back, right? You got no right to it.
I like it. I like it.
Grimes has been built really well, by the way. Like
Yeah,
I
hasn't
wasn't
he?
a Grimes guy to begin with, and it's almost like there was a sort of a pivot around the work that he did with Ted DiBiase. He's kind of flourished after that. I think he got a lot of confidence out of that experience for whatever reason. I think he's a very good performer.
I agree. I agree. I think that was a great spot with him. I've enjoyed his work. He used to wrestle as Trevor Lee. He was in Impact Wrestling or TNA. He's been through Ring of Honor. He's a bit of useless information. His dad actually wrestled with the Hardy Boys back in the mid '90s in South Carolina. So he grew up knowing the Hardys.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So he's great wrestler. And the Cameron Grimes gimmick, I think it's just gotten better with time. It's really sort of given it, like, I think the feud with Duke Hudson really put it, on the map as well. To add that level of seriousness to it, and now to make him a credible champion. I think that was a really sort of transitional feud that made him into where he is now. But after that, we see another Escobar and Tony D segment. The gang wars continue is what I wrote there. What I wrote down.
Even though I got his name wrong a moment ago, I am so pro Escobar. I just want him to just absolutely put Tony D'Angelo back on his haunches. I'm a huge, I'm not a D'Angelo fan. I think I'm looking for a bit of subtlety in gimmicks, right? And I think Timmy Stratton and Tony D'Angelo are just sort of kind of cookie cutter in what they do. And that doesn't mean you can't come from that trope.
No.
But you've got to add your own twist or something memorable from it, something that's uniquely yours. And I just feel like he's just doing an imitation,
Yeah, I get the same thing.
Martin Scorsese or something like that. So whereas I think the Legato thing, it's really believable. You actually believe that organization exists. And that they're a borderline cartel, and so at the end of the day, if I got to pick a bad guy, I'm picking Escobar.
Same here. Like I enjoy Escobar's work, but I thought this segment was just fucking goofy, to be honest. Like it was just, he's probably with my consigliere. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest, man. Like, what is the NXT audience like? Does everybody know what a consigliere is?
I certainly don't.
You know what I mean? Like, they kind of aim that at teenage kids. Like, how many teenage kids have gone and seen Godfather or know what consigliere means or watch The Sopranos? I don't know. But, I think the segment was what it was. Like I said, just wasn't something that I really enjoyed watching, to be honest.
Is the match next week?
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
All right, tune in next week.
That's it. Then we see Mark Fraser being interviewed. He's talking about that he's backing Chase U. Nathan Fraser, yeah. And Zion Quinn comes in and says, I like it. Keep your head down. Run it straight. And again, no one knows what that fucking means.
Wesley gets involved. I got to tell you, Nathan Fraser, who of course has been introduced, he's from NXT UK, right?
Yeah.
And he's come through the agency of his debut match against Grayson Waller, where Chase U's illegal use of the horn created havoc. I hate to see people with illegal horns. Which reminds me, the Viking Raiders are wrestling, but he's genuinely irritating, that Fraser kid. Like,
you don't like him?
No, like he's just, the haircut is bad. There's sort of the cockiness. I'm just waiting for him to say hello, governor, and all that sort of stuff. So I think I'm going to enjoy watching him because he's just like a really, really annoying dude. But he's just kind of got that sort of wet behind the ears, a little bit of like the little dog that hangs around the big dog.
Yeah.
He sort of jumped into the Chase U arms and whatever. And, Betty Grayson Waller was the greatest night of my life. Well, it probably was. But what a boring life. That's all.
But you know what? Like, it's even funny how he's like, what does run it straight mean? And Wesley's like, oh, what a fucking surprise. Something no one, you know what I mean? Like, to be honest, Wesley kind of comes across like a bit of a whiny bitch in this segment.
That's the most I've heard Zion Quinn talk, by the way, in the whole run.
So, but you know what? In Australia, we would get what run it straight means. Like, it's more of a football term. Like, just run it straight up, hit them up. You know, like
be honest, do it the right way.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Like, it was basically that whole segment was to catapult to a match between Zion Quinn and Wesley, which I kind of feel for Wesley, man. Like, you being in the situation that he's in.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Well, it is difficult because you put a lot of effort and then you kind of I guess let down, aren't you?
I mean, it's just one of those situations, man. Like, it's they released that, you know, his partner, and you know, like I said, it was just bad timing. It was just, I think that with Wesley, they're looking to obviously try and do something with him.
But it's difficult, and that's always the risk, I think, with tag teams, as it literally implies. You've got a teammate, and so you sometimes rise and fall together.
Yeah,
and I guess the magic of a great tag team is the sum is greater than the parts.
Exactly.
And when you lose one of the parts, you ain't got no sum.
Well, exactly. I mean, but even then, like, Wesley is a talented performer, but you know, what do they do with him? He's not the biggest guy on the roster. You know, what can they really do now that they got rid of the cruiserweight sort of thing with him? Like, you know, I don't want to say anyone lose their job or anything like that, but that could also be on the cards for him, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think they'll probably end up bringing Nash Carter back in because I think the accusations made against him are they're pretty wild, and they're almost hard to believe if you have a look at what's been put out there. But we do things for a reason. That reason we don't know. We're not fucking privy to it.
That's right.
But then we see Waller and Stratton versus Andre Chase and Saray. What do you think of this match?
Oh, well, you know, again, I'm a wall booster, so I'm always excited to see him out there. Mixed tag is interesting. Their format is essentially men v men, women v women, though there is some interaction. I thought it was, I kind of predicted that when Chase U and Saray would walk through, that the transformation wouldn't just be confined to Saray, but I don't think I'm any genius in predicting that. But I did like the fact that Wade Barrett, who does tend to sort of talk a lot about how he's attracted to this woman and that woman, was instantly attracted to Bodhi. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was hilarious.
I took a few notes on this one, Piers. You had Andre Chase parroting Waller with the knee drops there at one stage. And I mentioned earlier, I thought Saray was just launched into this match and kind of made it, to be honest. Nice move from Tiffany Stratton, who I don't like giving kudos to, but she was in a really good bridge that Saray laid down, but she went the classic hair pull. Like, you know, when in doubt, pull the hair. That's sort of the way. The Chase U stomps in stereo were fun. You know, it's very coordinated. Yeah. And then of course key moment when Saray got the drop kick on Grayson Waller, but it was the horn again that absolutely turned the match, and Bodhi Hayward responsible for that. And I did take the opportunity to message Grayson and say it's just reflective of the sad decline of the American tertiary education system, that this is the sort of skullduggery that they resort to, which is distracting professional wrestlers by party horns. It's like we're at an LMFAO concert or something like that. And I was outraged that the team in pink didn't get the chocolates.
You know what? Like, I found like it was interesting, this match, because you don't usually see women striking women, and you don't see the intergender sort of stylings that are working. Where I think this match we saw Stratton hit a move on Chase, then also Saray hitting the kick onto Waller, and also the crossbody to the outside as well. German lady, thank you for tuning in.
Hey, German lady.
Hey, German lady. I think as well, like, I thought this match was pretty entertaining. I found it funny, though, that they're all in matching pink when this match was just decided on the night. Then they're like, Well, talk about timing. Yeah, we're going to wear the matching tights.
Professional wrestling, it's a different world. I mean, the whole, for want of the better term, in agenda, obviously, PWA, we have sort of moved into a situation where everyone, irrespective of gender, competes on equal terms. It's different right now in the WWE, though it might be moving a little bit in that direction. I think it challenges some people. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I always say some people legitimately find it difficult to see a man powerbomb a woman, whereas my daughter finds it empowering in terms of the woman equally is able to administer that move on the guy. So it is interesting to see them dance with it a little bit in that particular match. But I'm heartbroken that 2 weeks of a party horn, an LMFAO trick, bring down the great Grayson Waller.
Oh, it's sad to see. But then we see another Ivy Nile challenge.
This was the bags challenge. Lunges and bags. That sounds like my Saturday night, Piers.
Bulgarian bags.
I'm out on the lunges and the Bulgarian bags, yeah.
Mate, we got to hang out more often then.
Yeah. It's a couple of nightclubs I can introduce you to.
Yeah, right. I think this Ivy Nile challenge thing is just, it's goofy as shit. Like, I can't. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like, why not just keep her in Diamond Mine?
Why not get a wrestling would be my comment.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
like
I would say she gets very little over the run that she's been on the show that I've been aware of her. She's got very little ring time.
She's had a couple of matches, but to be honest, like, I think she's probably, like, as far as like muscle mass, like, she looks just fucking staunch. Like, she just looks like a little pit bull.
Yeah, I remember the last match that I saw of hers I really enjoyed. So, Ivy, you won the challenge. Now get in the ring.
That's it. Then we saw Von Wagner and Robert Stone.
Your boy.
I really, really enjoy Robert Stone's work. Von Wagner now being partnered up with him, really building him as a killer. But Robert Stone saying, hey, you want to go up against us? We're going to put you on the shelf for 8 weeks, you on the shelf for 6 weeks.
Well, they said Ikebujiro 4 months. And I didn't see that piece where he got thrown into the front row, which is quite something. And what was the supposed malady that he suffered? Had him out for 4 months?
It wasn't 4 months. It happened like
because he came thundering back in during the promo.
That's why I'm just like, oh, wow, that 4 months went fucking quick.
Well, time is a fluid concept in the world of professional wrestling, Piers. So I think that's part of it. And as is facts, like we all go back to when Andre and Hogan came together, and apparently Andre had never been beaten. Well, in that particular world, that was true. So what you and I think is 4 months is probably a little bit different, again, in Florida, where the kidnap laws are very, very lax. So matters about accuracy in terms of calendars. It's just not going to wash there down in Orlando, Florida.
Will someone think of the children, please? Then we see Indy Hartwell backstage looking sad. She lost a bestie and a hubby. And then Toxic Attraction coming in, looking like they're going to give sympathy, but then just heel out straight on poor Indy Hartwell before ending the segment.
And they really dance around it, don't they? Indy looks mournfully, the ring's not there and whatever, and they don't really reference the departed characters. There's definitely seems to be one of the rules is once you're gone, that your name shall not be mentioned, it seems. Yeah. And look, I awoke to the news of the releases, and there was speculation that Indy was gone as well. And she hasn't. And I'm wishing her all the very best to continue. But again, it will involve getting back into the ring. Like the sort of the love angle thing meant that her and Persia barely wrestled, it feels like, in the last few months. So if we can look for a positive, that it gets Indy Hartwell back in a competitive sense.
Yeah, I definitely think, what's interesting is both Indy and Duke are still employed by WWE. So could we see another angle going with the two of them?
Oh, they already alluded to that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, okay, like as I said, I love the blending. I always say wrestling is highly athletic storytelling, but I'm actually wanting the stories to be told primarily in and through what occurs in the ring. So I think when you get this real harsh split, and you're trying to service all these characters, and yet you don't get many of them actually performing, it starts to get a little dense. And yeah, and like Indy Hartwell is one of the performers I saw when I first came into the world of Australian professional wrestling in a meaningful way, which is now about getting on to 4.5 years ago. And she had a match with Shazza McKenzie out at Parramatta, and I was with my mate Rose, and we said, like, she's fantastic. She got bounced out of the ring and she landed in front of us. She goes, "Where am I?" And we said, "Not in Melbourne anymore." And so I've followed her journey with great interest. And I'm saying I'm really disappointed for Persia, but I hope that Indy is put back into a performing context soon.
Yeah, me too. Because she can definitely go in the ring, and she's a great performer. And I think anything she's been given so far, it's been money.
Yeah, oh, totally.
But then we see the next match in the women's breakout tournament, which is Ariana Grace versus Nikita Lyons. What a great match!
You loved it.
It was phenomenal. Tremendous. Look, I think Nikita Lyons going for the handshake, Ariana Grace going for that cheap shot, but like she really hauled back. Like it was like Nikita just stood there for what felt like a minute while she's just like, and it was one of the slowest punches. It's like, you know what I mean? Like I just felt like the execution of it at the start just seemed a little bit slow. Like it was just like, really, because all Nikita Lyons was doing is standing there watching a smaller opponent punch her in the face.
I mean, talking about your made-up names, I mean, obviously Ariana Grace is channeling Ariana Grande, and my daughter's name is Grace, and I love her dearly, but that is just a made-up name, deluxe. 100%. And I'm probably doing a disservice, probably a real name. But, yeah, like, I just wrote down, why is Lyons in this at all? And then they started saying, well, you could argue that she shouldn't be here. And I thought Vic had one nice turn of phrase. He said, because they gave Grace a little bit of purchase early in the match, and he goes, she's looking for a bracket buster here. And it sure as hell would have been a bracket buster, but it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
And Nikita Lyons, to me, she's got the sort of martial arts type speed to what she does, and she's obviously physically imposing, but I'm still actually waiting to find a reason to connect, like from a wrestling point of view as to what she really is. I know she's got a finisher, that's about it. And I'm not sure yet I'm seeing her matches build, and they're kind of putting her in sort of fairly uneven context, so she's maybe not getting a great chance, but jury's out for me still on Nikita Lyons.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't think that they have real understanding of what they need to do with her. I mean, she looks impressive. She's amazing to looking. You know what I mean? I don't want to sound like a chauvinistic pig by saying something like that, but she's a beautiful woman. She's athletic. Does she have the charisma to pull off being a superstar? Only time's going to tell.
Yeah, it's early. And she'd almost question whether her interest of being served by being put into that tournament. And it was even kind of funny when they first presented them, she was sort of back at the right.
Yeah.
like, can I be as far off stage as possible here? So I guess firm favorite to win the tournament. Yeah. And where have we got as a result of that? I'm not so sure. But, they're obviously wanting to showcase new talent. But I thought that and the Fallon Henry, is that right? Have I got that name right? Fallon Henley match. They were two pretty flat spots for me.
Yeah, and they were both in the women's breakout tournament as well. So it really sort of states what they're putting out there for this tournament, and the quality of matches that they're putting out for it as well. So I felt like the Ariana Grande and Nikita match though.
Ariana Grace, get it right. It's not
Ariana Grace. Sorry, my apology. The split finish that Nikita Lyons did, it looked a bit off. You know what I mean? Like it didn't look crisp.
I gotta be honest, I tweaked my groin at the end of a DJ set on Saturday night, so I was no chance of doing the move. So I'm not going to be critical. I couldn't do this.
I did one just the other day, so it's
of course you're entitled to comment.
Yeah, exactly. But then obviously we saw Nikita Lyons going over in that match. I don't think there was anyone who was going to question Ariana Grace was going to be put over. Then we saw another Ivy Nile challenge. Just okay, she's the fittest fucking person around. We get it. Like you can just look at her and tell that that's the case. Like I don't know. I don't get these segments.
I think we can put a line under the Ivy Nile challenge. I think it was basically a war of attrition. A bunch of trainees dropped off. She was still going at the end. She's fit.
She's fit as fuck.
There you go.
But then we see the Viking Raiders promo. I've got this was awful.
Awful in their delivery?
Yes.
Because
it was very not awful, corny. Corny, just generic.
Is there a shift from their main run, sort of Raw SmackDown type run? I remember they're doing those comedy bits and whatever, but they were back to just sort of like roaring, yelling. Is that what they always done, or is that seemed slightly retrograde to me?
No, I just felt like it was a generic babyface to babyface promo. Like, yeah, you want to run it back and get a proper victory. We respect that as men. And
okay,
it was just shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, if you're going to put them on there to say something, like build up a feud between these guys. Yeah, we respect you, but you know what? You couldn't beat us fair and square. We're going to get you, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to get.
Yeah, it's a continuation of we're bringing people from the main roster. There's obviously a theory behind it around a sort of a credibility issue. They certainly deal with NXT very differently. And let's be honest, I'm not following it nearly as closely as you are, at times. But for me, a couple of years ago for Survivor Series, they brought in NXT as that third element, right?
Yeah.
And that's
no. It's always no. Like there's a lot of people that will always say that NXT is the third brand. It's development.
But didn't they once have a Survivor Series where the three brands were an NXT actually?
Oh, they did. They did.
Yeah, right. But they're a million miles away from that now. It seems to me.
Oh, look, I don't think NXT was ever a third viable brand. To be honest,
right.
It's always been NXT. And, let's say like at the peak of it, like Adam Cole was the champion in probably 2 years or whatever ago it was when that was happening. He wasn't getting the same money as like a Finn Balor or an AJ Styles and that's what you need to look at it on as well as like, no, they're on nowhere near the same money as what these guys are.
And I thought they might have a few years ago strategically trying to say, we want our broader audience to take on this third undertaking, being this third brand. Whereas now they're very clear. We understand that most of our audience is indifferent or almost unaware of NXT. The connections that they're forming are very rarely by bringing NXT people into those other two brands. I mean, they did it with Grayson on one occasion, but it's a kind of reverse thing where we're keeping it credible by having this little sort of cross-pollination, but it definitely, I think you're right. It's definitely not a third brand in that sense. It's in a different, not universe, but it's in a different place.
Yeah. I mean, it's a place where they're like I said, it's always been developmental.
But
and that's just
there was one interesting thing that the Viking Raiders said, and that was, if this match occurs, Ragnarok awaits, right? And most of us familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And by the way, I caught Doctor Strange in the Multiverses of Madness, whatever it is, the other day, and I loved it.
Yeah,
it's really good. So most of us sort of equate Ragnarok with the destruction of Asgard or whatever, but I went back to Norse mythology, and essentially Ragnarok is the final destruction of the free world. So I just want everyone who's listening or watching to be on notice that the Raiders versus the Creeds could be it, baby. This could be the last match ever. And I tell you what, that'd be not a bad thing to have on your wrestling CV. We ended up being responsible for the total destruction of the free world.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
That's pretty nuts. But it makes you want to tune in for it, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Ragnarok awaits. My goodness.
Then we had our main event of the evening.
We did.
Cora Jade versus Natalia Neidhart. This was actually a pretty good match.
It was great. Like I've again with Cora Jade, I think on the previous episodes I've appeared, I said, I'm not sort of quite 100% there yet. I thought this is by far and away her best performance, and I thought it was very well shot. I thought the angle with working on the leg, and then the stuff around the turnbuckles, and the 3 times the charm with Natalya on her leg, and then Cora came back, and then there was a sort of a rhythm of threes in this. 3 being such a magic number when it comes to professional wrestling, and of course the finish was around that. With Jade almost getting to the rope once, almost getting to the rope twice, and then just couldn't get that third effort. But she didn't give up. She basically passed out. I actually thought this was extremely well done. And I do think one of the things I will give credit for this, for one of the better term, cross-pollination, is wrestlers that for me, might have got a bit lost in the other brands. It gives you an opportunity to get a little bit closer to them. And I have to say, Natalya's work in this match really impressed me enormously. In the same way that the run that Grayson had with AJ Styles, I was always a bit cheeky about AJ Styles. I said, look, he's got a haircut like a hairdresser from the 1970s and things like that. And, he actually looks a lot like the bass player from Styx. Remember that band? It's You, Babe, and all that stuff. And Kilroy was here. But I saw what a good performer he was working with someone coming through the ranks like Grayson. So that's the bigger takeaway I do get from this. And I thought this was bang on. And they had great material, which is a picture of a young Cora with Natalya. And then, in the extended promo, tearing it up, et cetera, et cetera. I thought it's by far and away the best performance I saw from Jade. And I thought Barrett added quality when Vic, who's part of Vic Wade, as we all know, said, what would she be feeling out there? And Barrett loves to go, well, I've been out there. It's just like, he just loves saying that. And she goes, she'd be experiencing imposter syndrome. And that was kind of the theme. Like, is she an imposter? Like, this match will tell you a lot about that. She didn't win, but she didn't. No. She didn't quit. I just found myself really drawn into this, and I give him a lot of props for it. It was a really good finish to the show. Crowd loves her. Wade Barrett also says part of your objective is to maim your opponent, and I said, well, fair enough.
I thought it was a really good finish to the match, and to be honest, when we saw on AEW a couple of weeks ago when FTR did the match, which it was pretty much a reenactment of Owen Hart versus Bret Hart from 1994. That's where I kind of saw this being a reenactment of Austin versus Bret Hart. In the sharpshooter, Steve Austin, iconic moment, blood falling down his face, passing out from the sharpshooter. We're not going to see blood, but I think as well, it wasn't a rip-off of that match. I think there was probably a little bit of homage paid in that match to a certain extent.
I wrote that down too. I mean, that sharpshooter element was, it was sort of like a core bit of the DNA of what was going on.
Yeah. My only takeaway from the ending or the thing I didn't like about the match was at the end of it where Natalya is like, understood the badness of her ways, and she's now got respect for Cora, and you know what I mean. Like, get the fuck out. You know what I mean. Half an hour ago, you were saying you're gonna kill this bitch, and now you're like putting her over because she put up a great fight and passed out. Like, I don't know. Like, from a storytelling aspect of it, if Natalia's done from NXT and this was what her only goal was to come down and put over Cora Jade, she's definitely done that. I think Cora Jade is a made woman after tonight. I don't know. I just think that if Natalia's going to be around for a longer call, having her do that just basically squashed any heat she's ever going to have. Like,
okay, I probably thought it was an underline. I'd be surprised if she's continuing on NXT.
Yeah, I don't think she'll be continuing NXT.
No, it felt like a punctuation mark to me.
Yeah, definitely did. I don't know. I think it could have ended the story a bit better than her shaking hands and stuff like that. Ended a bit more. Maybe start to do that, and then she takes the core out again. But then
I did think about it. I did think that was a possibility. So you and I were thinking similar things, but not to be. But kudos to Cora Jade. Great effort.
Yeah, no, I think it was great effort. I think it was probably the best match of hers that I've seen, and probably the best match of Natty's that I've seen in a long time as well.
You seem close to her. You refer to her to Natty. You guys close? You've met?
Oh, we go way back.
Yeah.
That's Halia. Sorry, I'll be professional. That's Halia.
At the moment, I'm clinging on to Grayson Waller. Is the only one I've got now that I know.
Well, that has been NXT Roundup for the week. Mr. Gale, thank you for joining me once again. It has been a pleasure and an honor.
Before we go, first of all, it would be remiss of me not to pump the fact that PWA has our next show coming up Friday, 27th of May at Selena's at the Coogee Bay Hotel. Selena's is an iconic rock and roll room in Sydney. It's hosted local and international bands of great renown. I could bore you with some of them, but we're talking like Midnight Oils, the Smithereens, Jellyfish, Died Pretty. It goes on and on and on. So it's Cheap Trick. It's going to be a great room to play in. It's called Eat, Sleep, Wrestle, Repeat. So love people to either come there in person down to the iconic room and say hello, or indeed follow us on Fight TV. But also, it would be remiss of me to be on the show and not reflect on the fact that it was very recently your birthday, Piers. So happy birthday.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind me saying, I was fortunate enough to come and share a bit of that celebration with you just the previous weekend, and look, to be part of your 65th birthday celebrations, it was just an absolute thrill. You're doing so well for someone of those advanced years, and trust me, I know.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you, Chris, for that. And definitely check out PWA on the 27th of May. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there because my wife's going away for the weekend, so I've got to be dad duty all weekend. But I'll make sure I'll be tuning in on Fight TV. Make sure
we'll smuggle them into the commentary booth. No one will know. All right, it'll be fine.
Okay, kids, come on. We're going to go hang out with Uncle Chris again. Let's go. Guys, without further ado, make sure you check out our sponsors, healthvape.com and sleeps.com. Use those promo codes MWAPod to get a 10% discount. Make sure you tune in this Saturday. Actually, it's going to be Sunday, 10 a.m. Australian time, which is 8 p.m. on Saturday, USA Eastern. I am sitting down with the ECW original, the death match. What do you call him? The deathmatch icon, Mr. Ian Rotten, the guy who is the owner of IWA Mid-South. He has a notorious history. So make sure you tune in for that one Sunday morning, 10 a.m. For Shooting the Shit Uncensored. And also make sure you tune in this Thursday as I'm sitting down with PWA ring announcer Diego. So make sure you tune in 9 p.m. Thursday night. That's going to be a must-watch episode.
I'll be tuning in for that.
As Chris will be tuning in.
And the words are dance, Diego, dance, because when the man moves, mountains move.
They definitely do. But make sure you tune in for that. Tomorrow, make sure you tune in for Knights of the Gimmick Table with their guest. It's going to be Alan Kiwi Funk. So it's going to be good to see what Kiwi's been up to and catch up on what he's been doing over the last few months. Tune in for Killing the Business. Check out Wrestling with Tragedy. Check out all these shows we got going on the MWA Podcast Network. Till then, take care. All the best. We'll see you soon. Peace.